Good afternoon. So it's good to be here with you guys today. And when they told me it was for the College of Engineering that I was coming to speak today, I thought, okay, first of all, I know half of you in this room have already discounted everything I'm going to say because I'm not using a Macintosh. I am using a Windows PC. The other half are going to discount me because I'm wearing pink. So we're going to try to break some of the stereotypes you guys are used to. I started my first company when I was 23 years old. I knew nothing about computers, nothing about programming, nothing about writing code. I didn't even know how to use the Windows Explorer, which at the time, this will age me a little bit here, was just, Windows was like the new thing. We just gotten past DOS. So there you go. I know I'm really, really old. My son's actually in the College of Engineering here at BYU on a mission right now. But when I first started my first company, it was actually to sell software for another company that was one of the big national companies, and I was a reseller for their company, selling their software. So I know how to use software on the front end, but I had no idea how it got created. And I went on with that company to raise $2 million of venture capital in order to develop my own software. The internet was new, and Windows was just, getting big and capturing, people were starting to use Windows applications. So I decided to raise $2 million and create the first web-based medical system that had been developed because no one had done an application over the web, but I wanted it to look like Windows. So that's kind of how I got my start. And when I raised the $2 million, we hired about 30 engineers, and I took 6 months as the CEO, and I sat in the room with the engineers. I'm not going to pretend that wasn't days. It was a little bit painful. Hygiene might not have been their strong point. But I sat in the room with them, and I forced them to teach me how to write code. So I learned how to create database tables. I learned how to do middle tier code. I learned how to do front-end UI. And I didn't do it because I wanted to do it for a career. I wanted to do it so I could throw down the "that's not true" flag. I have to say that at BYU instead of the 2 initials I was going to say. Because I wanted to throw down the flag when what they were telling me wasn't either accurate or what could or couldn't be done. I needed to know if I was going to be able to design a software, I needed to know what could be done, and I wanted to understand how it all worked. So yes, I did learn how to write code and create databases, and yes, it's really awkward for engineers when I would interview them and then start throwing out questions, and they'd think that was like kind of freaky. So it really helped me in my career tremendously. I'm so glad to see there's some women in here too, because I think that we all know there's not nearly enough women that are involved in engineering. And I think the creativity and the way our brains work a little bit differently, it's actually a really good blend to have both men and women involved in your development teams. I'm going to talk a little bit today about the company that I just recently sold, MetaConnect. So let's just start off, because the leadership is kind of the theme here. Some of the things I'm going to talk about in regards to leadership are probably different than what you're going to expect today. But having the 2 departments I continued to manage in all of my companies always directly was the engineering team and the marketing team. Those are the 2 teams I wouldn't let go of, and you're going to probably think that's kind of odd because there's not 2 teams that dislike each other more usually in a company than engineering and marketing, because they both think that what they do, especially, let's just be honest, the engineers think that what they do is this much harder than what the marketing team does, right? And vice versa a little bit. So my goal was to always help everyone understand that being good at what you're good at is awesome, but there is not a good that's better than another good. They're just different, okay? And I think that's a really important quality, that if you can come out of your programs here at the Y understanding that everybody's skill sets, even though they're different, they are equal. They're just different. And so it's you each need each other to make it work. Because I can't tell you the number of softwares that I've seen or technologies that have been done that were really cool, but nobody would buy them. And then they're worth that. Okay, so it's a really important to have a really good blend of the skill sets that come together and to gain an appreciation for each other, because there's a lot of good you can do for one another in the process. MetaConnect Global didn't always look quite that cool. When we first came to MetaConnect, I got there in 2004, and this was their brand. It was awesome. I did not create that brand. That's what was there when I got there. That was their brand, and this is what their financials look like. Okay, now for all of you that are looking at that, the green line would be their revenue, and the red line would be their expenses. And that's ugly. They should never, just for the record, I know this isn't finance, but you never want it to look like that. Okay, it should always be the other way around. So they were losing about $180,000 a month. Now what they had at MetaConnect was a screaming team of engineers, some of the best programmers I'd ever worked with. And they had developed some awesome systems. They had been about, at that time that I came in, I think there had been about between, I don't know, probably around $8 million, I can't remember exactly, $8 to $10 million invested in building technology already. But they were not selling any of it, which goes back to that point that I was just talking about, is you can develop something that's awesome and cool and cutting edge, and that all your friends in the engineering program are like, that is so cool. But if no one will pay $1 for it, then it's never going to go anywhere. So it's really, really important to try to gain an understanding of technology's cool, but it has to be usable. It has to be something that people need. It has to solve a problem that's out there. It just can't be really cool code. So what we did is we came in and looked at, what they would do is build a product, and then because they didn't really feel comfortable selling and marketing, they'd go build another product and build another product. And so they just kept adding on. And pretty soon they had this huge platform and no sales. So the first thing I did when I came in there is we went in and decided we need to start selling what they have and stop developing something new until we can get everyone to buy off on what we've already got. So I'm going to talk through some of the secrets to how we were successful there. And the first one is going to be on creating the brand. And I'm not going to sit and read through all the bullets because we're going to talk through those areas, and I want to keep us on time. Now, before in your mind, you're probably going to think some of the stuff we cover might be fluffy. You're going to be like, that's just fluff, it doesn't work. By the end of this, I hope that you see that that's not true, okay? It's actually very fabulous. But when we came in, we decided to create the brand. Now, our problem was we were a healthcare technology company. And there's regulations around HIPAA, which is about patient privacy, and tons of security, tons. And because we dealt with patient medical records, we couldn't let people take their cell phones, for example, into the operations floors. How many of you would be excited to take a job where there was no internet access at all and no cell phone? Raise your hand. We have one person. Sweet. If you want to apply up there, they are hiring. We had to figure out how do we make people want to work here, because people were furious. And when the rules got stricter with HIPAA and we started to have to really crack down on people, it was really hard. And I thought, how do you make something not cool cool? Well, you have to make it sexy. So we started thinking about what is restrictive and has a lot of rules, but it's still sexy, and we decided spy stuff is, right? You go to the CIA headquarters, you don't just walk in with your purse, and just jump on the internet, and people want to work at the CIA because that's cool, right? James Bond, Jason Bourne, it's all very cool. So we decided let's make it a spy theme. Plus I grew up with a dad who's FBI, so I kind of had that background going on. And so we came up with this brand that we thought this will help the employees think it's cool, because now it's not, yeah, it is secure, but you're so cool that you get to go in that room and be part of that secure elite team. So I reached out to the whole company and I asked everybody to get involved with me. I said, how do we make this fun? How do we make this exciting? And we did it through the whole company. We changed our titles. There wasn't the finance team, there was the Treasury Enforcement Agency. There wasn't HR, there was the Office of Personnel Management. And it may sound all, like junior-y, primary, whatever. I'm telling you, it totally changed the attitude with security. Now all of a sudden people thought it was really special that they got to be part of that team. And it really made it where the complaints went down, the culture started to change, even our engineers got into it because they thought it was cool. They had voted for Star Wars, but the spy stuff won. I can't tell you how many servers we had named Darth and Vader and every other character. But we really did it through the entire building. And then we decided to go ahead and give them t-shirts. So you guys have all seen those FBI t-shirts. So I decided for Christmas I'd give them all MCG t-shirts from MetaConnect Global that look like the spy stuff. And what that did for us is it started to kind of rebrand the company. And we started it as internal, but all of a sudden we realized clients thought it was really cool. They'd see us in our MCG shirts and be like, how do I get that shirt? I want to be part of the elite team at MCG, right? And they thought it was cool. So we were like, now let's take this to the outside world. So we rebranded our websites, we rebranded our brochures, and the whole way we were explaining the Health Information Exchange, and everything had that kind of spy, cool look and feel. Now this came from the marketing department, right? They're very necessary in this process because here, we didn't change the core MetaConnect technology. We just made it sexy and cool, and we made it where people would want it, and we got rid of all these extra features that nobody liked. Let me give you a perfect example, and this one almost killed my engineering team. We had a lot of our clients were like healthcare companies, and they had medical coders. And majority were some women, there is men too that do it. And they read medical records and they determine codes that are the codes for the diagnosis of a patient. Okay, so they read and type in these codes. Well, these ladies, a lot of them are older women that are not necessarily as familiar with high-tech stuff. And so they would do it on their paper, and they would print hundreds and hundreds of thousands of pages of paper. And they'd circle it with their pens, and then they'd ship it to corporate. So we're serving these huge health insurance carriers, and there's just, I cannot tell you the amount of money going back and forth in paper. Millions of dollars, right? So we were like, why don't we just develop a web-based annotator? An annotator that they can actually open it up. They couldn't use Adobe because they had security regulations with ActiveX controls. So we had to create it. It was 100% browser-based. No installation necessary. So we created this annotator, and it had all kinds of, they had the cool pencils. Our developers got excited. They're adding, you could, put different colored sticky notes, and you could use highlighter or pen and all this, and a million buttons at the top. And we rolled it out, and nobody liked it. Nobody liked it. And I'm like, this doesn't make sense. It's saving so much money. The tree, think of the tree, think of the forest, right? What about Bambi? Save Bambi. So we went, and I met with the clients, and I said, tell me what the problem is. And they said, it's too intimidating. There's too much stuff. right? And I was like, okay, we got to dumb this thing down. We got to make it clean and white screens. They wanted it to be very, and I said, well, okay, so what are the things you do use? And they said, we like a sticky note, a highlighter, and then to circle stuff. And that's all we want. And I said, okay, well, how about if we just keep this icon, this guy? No, we don't want icons. We want a big button that says the word sticky note that we just have to click. I'm not kidding. This is a true story. That says sticky note. That's what I want to click on. And they said, and the one that says rotate, we want it to say flip right instead of 90%, 45. They wanted to say flip right, flip left, and turn upside down. They wanted the words on these big buttons. And now I got to go back to my engineering team and tell them. And you can imagine that conversation. That was the most painful conversation. They were like, I'm not doing that. I take personal pride in my work. I refuse to have a button that says the word flip right. And I was like, well, I'm the boss. That's the value of this conversation. So we're going to put flip right. So we did it. And guess what? Became the most used, most valued product we had out there. Made a ton of money on that product. Lesson learned? Okay, if no one likes it, no one wants to use it, and you need your marketing department to help you figure out, and your client service people to help you figure it out. It's a team of people that come together that make it amazing. So that's what we did, and we rolled this stuff out, simplified the applications, figured out what people like to use, and that branding stuff you saw was through the whole company. Those are their screensavers. Like everything we did tied into our theme and our brand. These are the shirts we put out there. And we'll talk later about those shirts because it was a pretty cool story. We did the wall, you know the CIA, they have the star wall. If you get killed in line of duty, you get a star. So if you killed it on the job at MetaConnect, you got your name on a star on the wall. So everybody wanted to be on the wall. Now it came time to find the right people. And one of the things is you guys come up with cool ideas and innovation. And that's, it's one of my favorite things is when people are innovating. It's just awesome. There's so much energy around innovation. It's the funnest thing to do. But you got to have all the right people together. It doesn't happen. And recruiting and hiring, I hated that part. I'm not going to lie. We went from 70 people to over 1,500 people in about 7 years. That is a lot of growth. And it was on 2 continents in 4 locations. Okay? A lot of growth. And I hated interviewing. Oh my gosh, I hated interviewing. And I hated it because you'd hire somebody and they'd come in and they'd tell you what you'd put in the ad. So you'd list in the ad, we want someone with integrity. The first thing out of their mouth will have a lot of integrity. And then they'd sit there and literally rattle off what you stuck in the ad. And I was like, okay, we got to change our approach, right? I also noticed that we sometimes hired people for a position, and then as we got to know them, we were like, God, I fit so much better over here. But because in their mind, they thought they were applying for this position, it was hard to change them. So we decided, scrap it. We are going to get rid of all the positions ads, and instead of hiring for a position, let's just hire people that are awesome. That was our strategy. We were going to have a new title called the NMT, the No MetaConnect title, and we were going to put ads out that just said, basically, if you live by these values, which were integrity, respect, attitude, dependability, flexible to change, implement and open to feedback, and then going the extra mile for others. If you were that kind of a personality, I don't care what you do, come and apply at MetaConnect, and we'll figure out where you belong. Let us figure it out. So I know this is kind of a crazy way to do it, but it actually worked incredibly well. So now I had to one of the things we were worried about is that people were self-selecting out. So for example, if we were hiring in a department, they'd be like, well, I don't have a medical background, so therefore I probably shouldn't apply at MetaConnect. Well, we didn't care because we could teach you what we need you to know. So I put it out to all my employees in the whole company, and I said, look, we want to create some kind of a commercial that we can get out there that will help people realize that we just want people with talent, and don't put yourself down. I think a lot of people tend to have low self-esteem about a lot of things, and so they think, oh, they're not confident enough to go, oh, I can get that job. So I said, I want you guys to come with your dumbest talent, the dumbest one you've got. Make a short little video, submit it to me, we'll pick some winners, and we're going to put them in the movie theaters up at Jordan Commons and other places. We got tons of videos, hilarious videos. And I'm just going to play a few of them for you guys. Now, mind you, I didn't spend anything on these, and you're going to be able to tell that. It doesn't always have to cost a lot to market a product or to market your company. And these are some of the videos that we came up with. Now, the whole goal with these commercials was for people to be curious and to think, well, I'm better than that, right? Not hard. Now, keep in mind, this didn't cost me much, which is fabulous. Here's the last one I'll show. And what that did is it really created an atmosphere that people were like, well, I'm going to go apply just to figure out what the heck those people do, right? So we attracted all these people. Then my 17-year-old daughter came up with this billboard idea. Her friend had a t-shirt that said, this is what awesome looks like. And we thought, what if we do it on a billboard with our MCG shirts and put it up on I-15? Tons of them. Now, that's one of our sales guys. Because you don't want to pigeonhole people. You never know what their talents are. He worked on a mink farm and ended up being one of our top sales guys. We also wanted to hire people that were already gainfully employed. And that was hard because how do you get the programmers that are working at a company? And so we decided, let's take an RV. We had bought a company. It was a personal health record company and merged it in. And when we bought it, I would never have bought a company RV because I just am really tightwad with money at the company. But we bought this company that came with the RV, had Joan London's face on it, floor to ceiling. She's a beautiful woman, but it didn't work for us. So we took the RV and we decided, let's make the mobile hiring command center. And we would drive it around and park it in front of buildings where we wanted to hire their staff. See what I'm saying? They'd come out for lunch and there you go, come in and interview. So that worked really well, really not expensive idea. You guys have all seen the labor dispute signs around town, the shame on Walgreens. Well, there was other companies in our complex that we wanted to steal their people. So we thought, why don't we get a shame on you for not applying at MetaConnect sign and hire some temps to hold it. And it's not illegal as long as you don't tie it to a tree, by the way. You're very welcome to stand there with your... But this ended up getting applications from all the companies in the complex. They tried to call the police on us, but that's how we found out it is not illegal as long as it's not tied to a tree. And that only cost me about $40 for the sign and about $10 an hour for the temps. So it's, again, none of the things that we ever did were expensive as far as the marketing goes of our company, but they were creative, and the creativity came from within our company, from all over. The people opening mail had some of the best ideas. The people at the front desk, I mean, finance guys had good ideas. Engineers were coming up with marketing ideas. You would have been stunned at where the ideas came from. The other thing we did is we decided to this is the part you will like, it's all mathematical. So we decided there has to be, as much as I'm a creative person, I'm very, very, like the numbers, I'm like all about the numbers and the math and everything. So I wanted a way to hire that was like, didn't take subjectiveness as much. So we found personality profiling testing that we could do on people that had some mathematics behind it. We profiled everyone in the company to find out what personalities fit best in which jobs, who were our top performers. And we were able to have every employee applying take these tests. And then when they came in, we kind of knew already where their personality would fit in. So it was a really helpful thing. It was very inexpensive to do. The NFL uses the same one. And then when they came in, instead of giving a big interview, because there's nothing worse than starting interviews for people and you realize in about 3 seconds that it's not going to work, and then you're stuck for 30 minutes making up questions because you feel bad. Right? So we decided speed dating, American Idol, let's blend them together and do speed interviewing. So we would place ads, and as people came in, they got 60 seconds to come and tell us why we should hire them. 60 seconds, and they'd sit before a panel of executives, and we didn't give any other guidance on what to say or do. And it was awesome. We hired after they would get that initial minute. If we were impressed, we would bring them back for maybe one more minute of questioning, and that was the whole time to hire. And we were doing thousands of these every month of these speed interviews. And I'll tell you what, it was the best tactic for hiring we ever used. We got some really crazy creative stuff that people came up with. And it didn't matter what job it was for. Even if you were an engineer, this is how you went through this process. Everybody did. The CFO, everybody had to go through this process to get hired. Because if their ego was above doing this, then we didn't want them. So that's something to keep in mind too. Okay. The next thing we did is once we hired them in, we were really clear about setting our expectations. In leadership, you can't tell people, you just do a good job. They have to know what that means to you, because do a good job means different things to different people, right? So as the leader, you've got to set expectations with people. Say, here's what I need from you. You don't have to micromanage them, and you don't have to give them every detail, but you need to say, here's what I need from you. And if you accomplish this, that's what I will look at as success. And then you have to create tracking mechanisms that will let them see that fact. They can watch and track their success. So at MetaConnect, I had the programming team develop these amazing dashboards that would real time, everyone in the whole company, total visibility, everyone in the whole company could go in and see how they were tracking against each other. They could see how we as a company were tracking. And it was an awesome tool because they knew if they were being successful or not. So the ones that weren't being successful, we didn't have to do as much firing because you kind of knew where you stood, right? I mean, we were clear about what was expected. We gave you the best metrics to use. We made it visible to you. And people loved it. They got excited to see if they were in the top 10 list for the day, or how am I doing compared to everybody else? And people loved that. These are just some of the other systems. We had quality reporting systems that were all, again, we custom built everything in-house. because I just liked designing systems with my engineers that are usable and they're easier than normal. We just did a simple, one of our guys that wasn't even in engineering came up with a contract matrix tracking and access that turned out to be one of the things that helped us in our due diligence process more than anything. A simple app, it was super inexpensive to create, but it was an awesome tool that let us abstract our contracts and put them into access, and then later we turned it into a much more advanced system. But it doesn't always have to be the most fancy-dancy system to create a lot of value. Everything from compliance was tracked in here, so we could track every employee and what forms had to be signed and everything else. And these were just simple tools that we did that had huge value in the company. Now, once you bring in the people, it's really, really critical. Number one, if you hire right and you hire for the values of the person, because you can't teach someone integrity. I mean, okay, let me take that back. You can teach a child growing up integrity. If there's an adult who's formed their personality, you're probably not you don't have enough time to teach them integrity if they don't have it already. Okay, so the values are really critical when you're hiring. You need to hire for those core values and stick to that. Because the moment you don't, you'll bring in someone bad, you'll take too long to fire them, and it will destroy your company really, really quickly. It's amazing how much damage it can do. So one of the things that was hard for me was making sure that I trusted the team I hired. I'm going to tell a really quick story here. Since they asked my husband to come down today, he doesn't usually come to my talks, but this involves him, so he's going to love this. But when we first got married 5 years ago, we were newlyweds, okay? About a month into our marriage, 3 weeks into it, right after the honeymoon, it was snowing. It was winter. It was tons of snow outside, okay? And this story is to illustrate a point that actually fits in business. But plus it's just fun. It was snowing, and again, newlyweds. He came in the house with my son, who at the time was like 15, and he said, we need a snow shovel. And I was like, dude, I have neighbors that have always, I was single for 10 years, and the neighbors always took care of the shoveling. I've never done a walk. I mean, I'm just saying. So I was like, oh, well, we'll just go get a blower, because I'd heard the men in the neighborhood using their blowers, so I figured that's got to be like the newest, kind of into the newest, coolest machines. And so he's like, we're not getting a blower. We have a son, So we're going to go buy a shovel. And I was like, okay, whatever. So then he leaves to go run errands. And you have to understand, I'm an entrepreneur, right? And so when you tell me there's a problem, what am I going to do? I'm going to solve that problem for you right there. That's how I work. So what do? I get on Google, because that's like my Bible of everything. Everything you ever need to know in the whole world is on Google somewhere. You just got to find it. So I went onto Google and I Googled the best snow shovel in the world. And something came up called the Wevel. True product. So I started researching the Wevel, right? And I'm like, I'm reading it. It says it's the best one on your back. There's no problems with it. It goes on Bob Vila. You guys watched Home? You guys are probably too young for. Do you know what Home Improvement was? Okay, Bob Vila. He's like the tool time hero guy, right? And I don't know tools, but I knew that show and I knew Bob Vila. So I'm like, they said Bob Vila endorsed it, and Time Magazine made it the invention of the year. Right? So I'm thinking, okay, Time Magazine, Bob Vila, how could I possibly go wrong? So I ordered the snow shovel, which was several $100s. I overnight expressed it, which was another several $100s because it weighed several 100 pounds. And I was all excited, right? I'm like, I did my first good thing in my marriage. This is awesome. He's going to be so good. I couldn't wait for him to come home. So he does. He comes home, and as he walks in, I said, honey, you're never going to I got you a snow shovel. And I said, I ordered it. It'll be here tomorrow. I paid extra shipping because I know it's snowing out there. He's like, what do you mean you bought a snow shovel? He's like, honey, Home Depot. And I said, no, this is like the best one. Bob Vila, Time Magazine. You don't understand, honey. You got to see this. There's an instructional DVD. Shows you how to use it. Now you have to understand, my husband grew up on a farm in Idaho, 1,100 acres. When I said instructional DVD, at that point, he looked at me and he's like, send it back. Whatever you just did, turn around and send it back. And I said, well, I can't. It was like $400. So he's like, they're $10 at Home Depot. What did you do? I'm like, babe, it's awesome. Come and look. So he comes over to the computer, and I pulled up the picture. And that's the Wevel. And I was so excited. Look at that. Just flip the wrist. It goes. It's awesome product, right? Ladies, are you with me? And they're awesome. Seriously, right? Like, so much easier. Now, at this point, you have to realize my 15-year-old son is just looking at him like, you poor man, did you not know what you were getting into when you married her? Which he totally did know, so he doesn't get to whine. So I, of course, being the newlywed, as he started to make fun of it, I was getting all choked up, and I'm like, I was trying to do something nice for you. You hurt my feelings. I'm a girl. Look, I'm allowed to cry even if I can code, right? So I said, you have to usually, I said, you have to use it one time. You don't know. It's really awesome. I watched the video online, and it is awesome. So one time. So the machine gets there, and he put it together, came in the house, and told me that there was just no self-respecting man on this universe would be caught dead. And I said, you promised one time, and we're still newlyweds, got to keep me happy still. So he waited till it was dark. That was his requirement. And he said, okay, son, you be the lookout. So my son went out, and of course my son had to get the video camera. He's like, this is totally going on YouTube. But don't tell Dad. So he's out there with the video, and my husband's out there, and like 3 seconds later, I hear a car coming down the driveway, and I open the garage door, and he comes bolting into the garage, and he's like hiding against the wall. So I go to make hot chocolate, and the next thing I know, it's disassembled and hanging on the wall in our garage. And he was like, I don't care. We're sending it back. And my son's like, oh, no, you can't. That's like a family heirloom. We have to keep it. We have to stick lights on it at Christmas and put it in the yard. It'll be like a statue. So we kept the Wevel. It is in the garage still. It's never been used again. Now, why do I tell this story? I had never shoveled snow in my life, ever. I mean, that's embarrassing, but I hadn't. Okay, look, I had really nice neighbors, really good, people to take care of me, members, So I never had to shovel before. I knew nothing about it. And I went online and just determined for myself what was the best thing to buy. The bottom line was I had zero experience. And what I should have done is ask the man with some experience, baby, what's the right shovel to buy? You have to say the word baby first, but in this case, he is my husband. When you hire these people, hire people with more experience than you in every area, and then trust them to do their job. If you've done the right tracking metrics, if you've set the right expectations, you're going to have tools that will help you know if they're doing it good or not. But you got to trust them. Okay, and if you can't trust someone as their leader, then you probably have the wrong person. There's probably something about that person that's making you uneasy. But hire people with more experience, because there's just no amount of research or data or endorsements by celebrities that apparently get paid for that, even, who knows if they use it. I'm just saying none of that really matters as much as the people with the experience. So trust your team. Okay, communication. This was for me probably the biggest surprise as a leader. In all the years, and I've been running companies since I was 23 years old. I'm now 41. I'm old, but all those early years, I kept looking for what's the right way to do this right, how to be the best leader. I'd read all these books. And what it came down to in the end is just to communicate with your people every single day. Doesn't cost you anything, takes some time, but there's no money involved. And honestly, I didn't learn that until about 4 years ago, maybe 4 or 5 years ago. I realized as we got bigger that I couldn't talk to everybody anymore. And so the employees that weren't with me every day, suddenly the further you get away from the boss, the more the vacuum starts to fill with rumor and gossip and people that are looking to get ahead, and they think knowledge is power. So when your employees don't hear from you, they're going to hear from people around them who act like they know what you think. Does that make sense? So you want it to come right from you. So I started to communicate, and I had my programmers put a little company intranet up, and I said, every day I'm going to write a blog. And I'm going to just tell them what I'm doing that day. Here's what I'm working on. Here's what the company's doing. And it's supposed to be the CEO's tweet to her peeps initially. My daughter named it. It was going to be a little tweet, but it turned into a daily blog. And every day, the very first thing everyone started their day off was my blog. And I would tell them, here's what I'm learning today. And here's the mistakes I've made. And you're probably like, oh, because no one's supposed to tell their mistakes. That's not true. It is okay to make mistakes as long as you're learning from them and growing from them. And if you're willing to help tell others those mistakes so that they can avoid them, you're doing a really good service for people, and they'll realize that you're human too. And as a leader, it really garnered more support than I could have ever imagined to communicate and be open about who I was. So I wrote about everything. I wrote about, I hired someone that was wrong for the values, and now that was a mistake, and I'm not going to do it again, and here's how I'm going to fix it, and I'm sorry if it affected any of you negatively. And then I gave them a way to communicate back on that blog where they could come in, and once they read it, they could post conversation back on a discussion board, and they could ask me questions, they could make comments. Right? Some days it was just silly stuff. Some days I'd write about how humbling it is to put your pants on right out of the dryer, because it kind of is humbling, right? And you go around doing the stretchy pants dance. So I would write about that stuff just because, that happens to me. Whatever I'm going through at the time. So I would write about, the dumb things my husband does, and they all love that because, the bigger the flower bouquet I got, the more trouble they knew he was in. So I would write about everything, but mostly it was about the business. It was about what's going on, and here's our goals, and here's the values. And I had this awesome meeting today because the more they knew about what I was doing, the more they got behind it and supported me. And it totally transformed the culture. We also asked everyone in the company, this is where the innovation comes in. I said, I want everyone to give us your best ideas. And then I let everybody else rank those ideas. So they could post an idea, other people could vote on the ideas, and I would go in and look at the very top voted ideas, and we'd implement them. And then they got a prize if they put an idea up there that we implemented. And like I said, they came from the most random places. People, sometimes when you do a job every day, you get so into that job that you can't see beyond it. So someone who doesn't do that job, that's doing something totally different, can look at it with different eyes and be like, hey, why not this? And you're like, oh my gosh, why didn't I think of that? Right? It happened all the time. So we got amazing ideas by just asking everyone to contribute. And then they felt like they were part of it. So now they didn't just work for me, they were working with me. And it made a huge difference in leadership. Remember those t-shirts I said we gave away? Well, one of the things employees started to ask me is, hey, can we have sweatshirts? And we'll pay for them. We just want, and I'm like, you want to pay for something that has a company name on it? Like, I don't know what you guys, I like never spent my money on that. And so I was like, they want to buy a company item. And I said, well, what kind of items do you guys want? They asked for, in one morning, I posted a question, what items do you guys want? There was 158 requested items. They wanted everything from baby onesies and umbrellas and car shades, and they wanted I mean, it was unbelievable how much stuff they wanted, and they wanted to pay for it. We want gym bags, and we work out, everyone knows we're part of MCG. And I was like, I went literally, okay, I don't cry at business, but I was sitting in a due diligence meeting as we were selling the company. And of course I had to keep it, kind of quiet, although I did talk about what I could to the employees to keep them in the loop. And the 158 postings came through that morning. I was in a diligence session. I'm looking at it like, I can't sell this thing. Like, these people want to pay for this stuff. It was really emotional as a leader because you don't expect that in a company. But what we had done by taking this cool brand that they helped develop, by communicating it every day, we had created way more than just a brand. We created a whole culture of the company. And it was an amazing culture, and it was founded on really good values, really good values. And that was, for me, a really, really awesome. Oh, the belt buckles, we had an office in Ephraim, so the rodeo. We went to the demolition derby every year with everybody. So we got the belt buckles that said MCG. And we sold, I think, it was between $50,000 and $100,000 at cost to the employees. We just sold it for the cost. That's what they paid out of their pockets to buy this stuff and wear it all over town. So we were doing something right. Okay, so the question is that fluff? Well, when you have happy employees that are bought into the culture and they bought into the leader that they're getting behind, that translates into the customers because they start treating the clients like they love them. Our employees would send birthday cards out to the clients, and they would send, get better soon cards, and they started, and I wasn't asking them to do that, they were doing it. They were like asking repeatedly, give us more thank you cards, give us more of this cards, we want to write letters to people. And it was unbelievable to watch that they weren't just there to do the job, now they were there to really help build the company. And that translated into clients that were like, oh my gosh, I love MetaConnect, right? And so here we had clients that were actually sending us things and being all excited for us. And when they would have a new business opportunity, they'd call us and be like, I know you don't do this today, but what's the chance of you guys adding this service? Because we just love your people. Now, is that awesome for business? Hello, it's fantastic. I designed the UI on most of our systems at MetaConnect, and most of those system designs came from sitting down with clients, listening to their concerns, and as they would open up about problems they faced, I would come back and use those problems to develop solutions for them. They were helping me to come up with what I needed to solve that they were going to pay for before I'd even developed it. They were helping me know, I'll pay you this much money if you can give me a solution for this. That is the ideal. The ideal is to have someone willing to put the cash up. I mean, Bill Gates sold DOS before he owned it, right? We might have sold several systems to people. We always delivered on time, that we put the pitch out to them and the idea. They loved it, and we gave ourselves several months to deliver it. And it worked really well because these people love doing business with us. That's the bottom line, is people will do business with people they like. Even if your product's the best, if they don't like you, they're not going to use it. So it's really, really important to get everybody's buy-in. The company grew. We grew to over 1,500 employees. We had 5 locations worldwide. That's the headquarters. And do you guys remember those financials we showed before? See how that was in the very beginning? That's what happened. Now, what's really cool is you see that inflection point where it goes, this thing has a laser, right? Don't ask a CEO to use a laser pointer. Let's see. No, I'll do something wrong. Okay, I'm just going to tell you. See the point where the red line starts to level out, but the green line's going straight up? That was the point I started writing that daily blog. No new technology was put out there. This wasn't because of technology. This was because I started writing that blog, that silly blog every day, and the productivity of our staff started to go through the roof like you would not believe. And the performance was going, so I wasn't having to add new people because they were doing a better job and getting more done. So our margins went way up, way up. I mean, that's like a dream to see something like that. So all those things led to a $377 million cash exit. I'd say that's no longer fluff. That's fabulous, right? And I know it might have sounded like stuff you wouldn't have thought of. It's like the touchy-feely stuff and all that jazz. It works, you guys. It really, really works. There is huge value in that. The highest priority of leadership, just a couple more points and then we're going to be done, is to do, this has been on my wall since the day I walked into MetaConnect. It says, do what is right, let the consequence follow. Success will come and go, but integrity is forever. And I did that for myself because you are going to be faced daily in your business lives, whether you're the CEO or whether you're working somewhere, whatever it is you do, you're going to be faced daily with the opportunity to cut corners or go into the gray or to tell a little fib, right? To get out of trouble because you were late, so you make something up. Those opportunities come up all the time. You're going to see competitors that cut corners and they're winning you and they're beating you by crazy and you're like, oh my gosh, if I just did that too, you're going to have those chances. And I'm just telling you, there will never be a time that you won't regret it if you do one of those things. Don't ever go into the gray. The thing I wouldn't have cared if MetaConnect succeeded or failed. What I was the most proud of is that we did it the right way. We all kept our integrity intact. We never once bent the rules, never one time. We had lots of opportunities. We had a lot of competitors that were doing some really underhanded stuff, and we could have played that game too, but we never did. And it was unbelievably cool to watch the response. We had one client fly out from Florida to meet with us. It was a really cool experience, actually. He flew out from Florida to meet with us and sat down and he said, I'm here because one of the other vendors is stealing from us. And they were double billing on something. And he said, I'm here because we're going to pull our business. So this is, I can't say the name of the company because, confidentiality, but it's we're talking huge company. Huge company one everyone here would know. And they said, we've been doing some research and we found out they were double billing and we're going to pull our business and we want MetaConnect to take it because we have heard that you guys have tons of integrity. Okay, that stuff happened all the time. All the time. We could have stooped to the other level and we didn't. Don't ever get tempted by that. And whether you succeed or fail will not matter. If you keep your integrity, you win, and that's what really matters. Now, the coolest part of that story is at the end of the meeting, I looked over and he had a little pin on his chest. I said, what is that pin? It was a temple tie pin. So you never know who your clients are. And this last part, and again, don't make fun of this because this thing works, is I want all of you guys to leave here today, and I do this at all my talks, it's really important to me. Go home today and make a goal poster. Okay, don't mock the goal poster, you have no way to hear. When I was 23, I made a goal poster, and this is the stuff I stuck on there, okay? I had my Entrepreneur of the Year award because I knew that was like the epitome of winning that Ernst & Young award. I wanted the nice house, I wanted to meet Bill Gates, all these things, right? Time with my kids, I wanted to be on magazines, I thought it'd be kind of fun. I was young, 23. I made the poster, I stuck it on the wall, didn't look at it again, until I was like in my, probably, I guess, early 30s. I went and looked at the wall, I went and looked at my life, and everything that was on there actually happened. Except for Steve Ballmer instead of Gates, because Gates had retired. But that still counts, people. Just saying. And I realized, oh my gosh, that totally worked. So wow, pretty amazing. So then my dad got called to be a temple president in Ghana. Now I was a single mom for about 10 years. Went to BYU, got divorced young, and was a single mom for 10 years. And my dad got called to go to Ghana, Africa, to be a temple president. And he said, I want you to come out to Ghana, and I'm going to seal you to your husband in Ghana when you get married. And I was like, I'm not even dating anyone, Dad. Sorry to disappoint you. And he says, that's okay, just stick it, on the gold poster. So I did. I stuck it on the poster, didn't think about it. And 6 months later, I ended up in Ghana, Africa, sealed to Roland. So it was very cool that worked. Now I got done, and I was like, holy cow, that poster is freaking magic. So now I decided I got to stick bigger stuff on my poster, right? I'm not dumb, right? So I made another poster. Do you love the poster or what? Now here's what's really funny. I made this poster right after we got married. That was 5 years ago. I would ask him, but he'd forget because he's a guy. So, they don't remember those things. 5 years ago, I wanted to start my own charity. I launched the iPop Foundation last year when I sold my company. The stack of money I sold my company, right? I wanted to do social entrepreneurship and mentoring. We started Rees Capital to do that. 7 Wonders of the World, I told my kids I'd take them there. Coincidentally, in the last 5 years, we've hit 3 or 4 of the 7 Wonders of the World just by coincidence. My brother was living in Italy, then he was living in Amman, Jordan. You kind of follow what I'm saying. The goal post now, the only thing on there I don't have yet is my plane, and my husband knows he has to let me buy it because he's ruining the mojo of my talk. So we're getting the plane. But really, it really truly has worked. And my children got involved in this. Everyone I talk to, I say, make a goal poster. I write for Forbes, and I did an article on goal posters, and I said, please send me your poster. I'm going to keep it on hand, and in 5 years, I'm going to go back and find you. And when I do, I'm going to write a book about the magic of the goal poster. So I want all of you guys to take the challenge. I want you guys to email it to me. And we're going to see in 5 years if it came true. And even if you're like one of those guys, like, she's so full of it, well, you know what, do the goal poster and find out. What do you got to lose, right? You can prove me wrong, and you can write your own book about how Amy was wrong about the magic, whatever. So the last thing is, I don't want you guys to ever limit the picture in your mind, because God might intend your life to be a masterpiece. And that has been the story of my life, right? Like, that's what I saw myself as. I had no idea. I couldn't even balance a checkbook at 17. I couldn't even do Windows Explorer. I didn't even know you could import data when I started the first company. I typed it all in manually for days on end. I mean, I've come a long way, right? If I can do it, you guys can do it. There's just no limit to what can be done. You just got to have a lot of faith and move forward. I started Rees Capital to mentor, and when I left Matic Connect and transitioned out, I told my employees I promised to keep writing the daily blog, because that was the thing they cared about most. It wasn't that I was leaving the company, they just wanted the blog because it motivated them and they wanted to keep learning. So I still write it. You guys can find it if you go to amyreesanderson.com and read the blogs. I post them every single day, 5 days a week. And that's my contact information if anybody ever needs help with anything. I'm happy to do whatever I can. I've been really blessed in my life, and I hope you guys will go out there and change the world, because young people today blow my mind. Like, I have a 19-year-old son on a mission in Mississippi and a daughter at 17, and they're so much smarter than I am. Even now, they're that age, they're so much smarter than I am, and they're more righteous and they're better. Like, you guys are incredible, and what you guys will do in your lives is going to shock you. So go out there and just get it done, but do it the right way, keep your integrity, and always value everybody equally around you. And that's what I'll leave you with today. Oh, I'm supposed to ask questions. Questions? Okay, we have about 5 minutes if anyone wants to ask questions, I guess. So be good to me. Does anyone have questions?
Yeah, tell me more about your charity.
So I started the charity to create educational curriculum for entrepreneurship. I feel like you guys learn differently today. Education hasn't changed, and I'm going to offend every professor in here. Okay, here's the deal. My children they're really smart kids, but they hate to read. I don't know why, but kids today don't love reading anymore, right? They do read because they have to, but they don't love it. I firmly believe as adults, we have to start to catch up with the kids when it comes to education. You guys learn faster than we can teach you, I think. And so one of the things I found is that a lot of kids don't realize their potential because they start to feel like that if someone teaches you something new and you have nothing to relate it to, then they feel stupid and then they just back away from it, right? So I realized the way we need to get kids to relate to things is using more multimedia and technology. Because if you look at a 3-year-old, you can hand them an iPad without an instruction manual, they'll be better than a 19-year-old in a second. There's something going on with the way that they understand technology. So we started the foundation because we're going to start creating curriculum where we tape companies I invest in. We'll have camera crews follow them. So you guys seen Shark Tank? Imagine Shark Tank, but following those companies for a full year and seeing every failure, success, everything that goes on in that first year. And then we'll take 10 to 15 companies, profile those, and make college curriculum where the teacher can show the actual real-life case studies, but then stop them, talk about it, then give you your assignment so you have something to relate it to. So that's what the charity is working on, is we're really trying to do a different style of teaching entrepreneurship that then can be leveraged in other countries as well, because the principles of business entrepreneurship are the same everywhere. So that's what the charity's for. Anyone else?
What would be your most important, piece of advice for young entrepreneurs?
Just start. The biggest thing that I find is these entrepreneurs are scared. The people are scared. We all have those insecurities, right? My favorite scripture, am I allowed to quote? Sorry, it's BYU, right? So my favorite scripture is the one in Timothy where it says that God didn't give you a spirit of fear, but a peace and a sound mind, and it's my favorite. It's always been my favorite, because it kind of reminded me whenever I feel scared that that's not coming from the right place. So the biggest thing is people overanalyze. They're scared of failure. They're scared someone will think their idea is dumb, so they don't start. Start, because I am telling you, if you just start, you don't have to know exactly how it's going to turn out, but if you just start, the doors will start to open and things will start to come about in your life. And literally, I believe God brings the right things in your life. And if you don't start moving, He can't do that. So you got to start moving your feet forward. Just start. And it's okay. It'll morph and your idea will change. And don't be afraid to talk to people and get their feedback. Because no one's going to steal your idea, and if they did, more power to them for being ahead of you. You know what I'm saying? Just don't worry about that stuff. 99% of them are never going to run with it. You run with it and just start and get going. And like I said, it's okay, because you'll probably change 15 times before you find out what it should be, and that's okay. That's part of the process. But start. That's my best advice.
What's the best way for you to stay humble when you start seeing so much success?
In the beginning, you guys heard me talk about don't think you're better than. I'll be honest, this is totally open. I struggled because some of the guys in the computers and engineering departments, they thought their skill set was so much better than a salesperson. They're like, well, I'm smarter than that person. I'm better than them. And their skills are, and it was really hard for me. It made me feel bad. And I had one guy that worked for me as a manager, and he would sometimes make comments about well, those people are just, what they do is not that hard. And I said, you know what I'm going to make you do? I want you to go sit in that department, and for a month, this is one of my chief officers. For a month, you get to do that job. And at the end of the month, I want you to come talk to me. And he was not happy, but he went into the job for a month, and he came back up, and we talked about it, and he's like, I had no idea. He said, I feel so bad, like, it's really hard. And I said, I know, it's hard, right? So you like, learning I just don't think God has a measuring stick this way where he says this skill set is here and this one's down here. I think it's this way. They're just different and equal. And I think that when you realize that, and spiritually, when you realize that Heavenly Father doesn't care when I die, he doesn't care that I made a ton of money, he doesn't care what my title was, he's going to care how I live my life. That's why I said the integrity thing. And I think you have to keep that in mind, because I've seen so many of my friends that have succeeded, and that suddenly they think they're better than, like, they think that they matter more in this life than somebody else. And it makes me really sad, because it's just not true, and they're going to have a rude awakening one day, right? And I just think you have to remember where it all comes from, because it can come and it can go, and he can take it away as quick as he blesses you with it. So if you want to keep your success, you dang well better stay humble, because God has a way of doing it for you if you don't do it yourself. And it hurts a lot more when he does it. So that's honestly, that's what I try. When I get out of, and my kids keep me humble. You know, they tell me my behind jiggles too much when I run on the treadmill, and all that stuff. So I have kids that'll keep you humble. Anyone else? You guys are awesome. Thank you.